Hey folks, back from road tripping, and I want to do another one of these to talk a bit more about that idea that I had mentioned when I was up on Mount St. Helens. And actually just a little bit more about some good meditation for doing road relaxing or meditation. Because, I practiced a lot of it while I was on the road, and I don't know, I figure I've got a few good techniques that maybe I've come up with during that time. All right. So the one that I had mentioned in the first part of this was this idea of doing basically the alphabet. And so for doing the alphabet, I find this one very useful because, like the Taoists talked about, a lot of the time where you get blocked up is in these zones where you are either up your neck, you're kind of midway down your back, like a little bit below your shoulder blades, or you're like down kind of like right above your pelvis, kind of where your spine connects to your pelvis down there. But the thing that is nice is that most of the alphabet is also set up in these kind of three-step patterns. The letter E has, 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar all the way down the pelvis. Or the letter B, kind of it curves up and then goes down. That kind of thing. But what's nice is that each of these can basically hit each of these patterns, or each of these spots on your body. And so, as you work up these, they also have a kind of a nice alternation between ones which are kind of hard and soft and ones which kind of focus in zones, and then they basically oscillate back and forth between these. It's kind of interesting how the alphabet actually flows, or at least the English one does. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of that too. But for example, you start off and you kind of have like A, and so you can oscillate like forward to back with a tall one, then forward or back to forward with like a small one going through the middle, and then do it again, or you could like reverse the pattern, but then B, for example, similar idea, but instead you can do a very regular up, down, that kind of thing. And then C is very smooth, it just kind of flows through, rotates back, flows through, rotates back. And as well as D, and then you get back into some hard ones. You get into E and F, things like that. So, like I said, it's nice. It alternates, it covers various zones, it gives you a bunch of different patterns to kind of think about as far as trying to do them in smooth flowing motions that kind of, alternate and flow. I just did F kind of unconsciously there. And then, basically a good way to do these is you can either do them through the kind of Om type meditation, while you're basically also thinking these types of things, and really trying to visualize basically like a moving zone. Like you're really feeling a plate or a wall or a field or something of force basically moving with these and dragging stuff with them, and kind of really like, I don't know, it feels like maybe digging into the inside of your skin or something like that. It's really carrying stuff with it. And so then as you go through these, you can basically go like, the whole alphabet. That's a pretty good way to kill, 20, 30 minutes while you're driving or something like that. And then you can also do, for example, all the numbers. Because a lot of the numbers also have, very kind of unique shapes that basically hit spots, then move. And depending, you could also do them, you could alternate and do a side-to-side version of them, and then do a front-to-back version, if you've got a decently long trip, got a couple hours or two where you're bored and got nothing else to do. Or, if you've got a commute to work that's relatively regular, that's, like 25, 30 minutes, something like that, you could basically do like a set or two of these probably over that kind of time, particularly as you got more practiced. Although, actually, after a while, your lung capacity gets large enough, you really end up start holding pretty long, like, and they're going for, 40, 50, 60 counts. And you're like, man, all right, when's this finally going to end? Anyhow. So then, that's one set to work through. Then the numbers are another set to work through. Those are pretty nice because, a lot of them have very flowing motions that kind of repeat a zone. Like sixes, they tend to go to a place, then hit the place again. Nines kind of hit a place, then go through it, dragging stuff out of it. Sevens tend to very much accentuate a spot and then go down. All the kind of hard curve ones like L and things like that do that as well. And then one of the things that I've kind of noticed that's interesting as well is you can also move over and start doing things like, you can do like kanji. Because a lot of the kanji are actually very evocative in that if you align them, within the human body, I've often found that, for example, front to back for some reason seems to work a lot if you're also reading them from right to left. Like, for example, life becomes a line moving through you, then a sweep at your back, a line through the center of you, a line through the base of you, and then a line sweeping all the way down your body. And a lot of them are like this. Happiness is another one where it kind of like you would cross through your head, then come down through your head to your back, forward, back to make like a little part of a moon, fill the moon kind of like you have like a fat belly or something, then do like a line below that, a little notch below that, drop it, and then basically like do a cross going into your pelvis. And so a lot of these, it's like you can almost look at them and be like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. It's like a guy with a fat belly. He's got, a little bit of like the pelvis region stuff going on. He's also happy up top in his head. I mean, it kind of covers all the zones and does little X's through them. And it's interesting how a lot of these look. Where life is more of a, 1, 2, 3, and get some flow in the back going on there, and then, get some flow through the whole body. And I would think that honestly, in a lot of ways, maybe several languages actually have interesting ways that they basically work out, where parts of symbols or characters align with the body. I don't know. I've thought about trying to look at more at the kanji to see if there's a kind of larger relationship going across them where you could be like, okay, well, you start with all the ones that have X's, then all the ones like, an X with a line below that, which I think is peasant, but then that kind of transitions into life when you add a few more lines and basically add a slash. And I'm sure there's probably a professor there who's done that somewhere, but still, it'd be interesting to look at it. But I mean, and also a lot of the mathematical symbols and things like that too. You can do, because a lot of them actually tend to also be these kind of Greek letters that have very flowing alphabets. In fact, I mean, the Greek alphabet in general is probably just very good because almost every single letter is a very flowing letter that's basically going to kind of carry stuff through you. So they're all kind of naturally set up for that. Whereas, something like the Japanese hiragana or katakana is going to be very kind of like sharp motions, basically more like a cutting effect. Much like you're drawing like a lot of letter L's in the American or English alphabet. Anyhow, so that was all I wanted to talk about for this one.